Tons of AEW news today. We know that AEW is planning for a major announcement that's coming this Monday. I'm going to bring you guys the details on that story. We also know an AEW star is injured, and we also have some Young Bucks Trios Championship news. If you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. My name is Zango, and this is Destination PW. But let's take a look at what's happening with the Young Bucks. If you guys didn't know, the Young Bucks have actually continued to further teasing the Trios Championship. Now, this is not necessarily a secret. We know that there has been talks about the Trios Championships coming to AEW, but we also know just a few days ago, if you guys didn't check it out on Destination PW, we were talking about AEW introducing a TBS championship. So at this point, we can expect at least 2 championship belts introduced to the company. The Trios Championship and a secondary Women's Championship, rumored to be titled the TBS Championship. Now, the Young Bucks have a good record of putting things on their Twitter bio, which ultimately end up coming true. And we have seen them do this time and time again, but most recently, we've seen them do it with Adam Cole prior to his debut. Now, the Young Bucks have tweeted about the Trios Championships, and of course, as you can imagine, it makes a lot of sense. The Super Click has been officially trademarked, and we know that's going to be like the group within the group, and this will consist of Adam Cole and the Young Bucks. They also had a very impressive showing at AEW Rampage this past weekend, but it's very clear that AEW is going to have some massive plans for its Trios division. The real question is, who should be the first ever Trios champions? Well, with the Young Bucks teasing it, to be honest with you, I think AEW has to make the conscious decision of putting the belts on Super Click. Yes, the Young Bucks just lost their tag team championship belts, and that was a great booking decision by AEW. Lucha Bros are the tag team champions, and the great news, when you introduce Trios champions, technically, you can have Death Triangle also compete for those belts. And I think, from a fan's perspective, the best matchup here should be the Young Bucks with Adam Cole versus the Lucha Bros with Pac. Now, the reason why I want that is because obviously it screams money, but it would be a really cool match. And obviously we saw what happened at All Out. It was just a really, really awesome show. Now, with AEW introducing Trios belts, I want to know from you guys, who do you want to see as the champions for the first time? I also think the idea of Trios Championships is going to put a lot more people on TV, especially some of the guys that you're not used to seeing all the time. The real concern I have here is how you're going to differentiate the two divisions, the tag team division and the Trios division. But I think within time, we'll see AEW execute very, very close to perfection here, because AEW, without even having these championship belts yet, they've done a really good job of building up that division, and there are so many credible teams. All right, guys, we got to talk a little bit about Brian Cage, because if you guys didn't know, Brian Cage was not able to appear at a recent indie event. He was scheduled to take on Buddy Murphy, his first post-WWE match, and Buddy Murphy was not able to compete against Brian Cage because Brian Cage is apparently injured. Now, you might be wondering, why is this even something that we're talking about? But as you guys know, Brian Cage is actually in a program right now, and it's a very weird situation with Brian Cage, because Brian Cage's wife, Melissa Santos, has taken a lot of shots at AEW and their creative with Brian Cage. Also, one thing that a lot of people haven't been talking about, but should be talking about, is the fact that last week on Rampage, Taz and the commentary team absolutely buried Brian Cage. And basically, here's the thing, guys. A lot of times, in a situation like that, a lot of the responses that came from social media was, well, of course Taz would bury him because they're obviously in a feud. But also at the same time, too, I don't think it's coincidental based on the time and the rumors of Brian Cage not being happy in AEW, and then obviously his wife coming out and speaking out about it. I think Brian Cage is great. I think he deserves to be in AEW. I think he should be at the forefront of AEW, but he is somebody that is currently getting lost in the mix, and that is the unfortunate part. But there is a lot of talent on the AEW roster, and there's a lot of great talent on the AEW roster. I'm hoping that he can get through this injury in a very, very good manner. Hopefully it all goes smooth, whatever it may be, and hopefully he's not out of the ring too long. I would like AEW to kind of press the reset button with Brian Cage, because whatever is happening could be rectified with him coming back, going on a monster run. I always liken the comparison between Brian Cage and Brock Lesnar, And I think that's how AEW needs to treat Brian Cage upon returning from injury. Food for thought, but I want to know what you guys think, because Brian Cage could be an essential part of this company. I think they even had plans to do so, but as time went on, AEW continued to, hire and bring in more people, and then he just kind of got lost in the mix. It's unfortunate, but it's true, and hopefully we see him come back and he goes on an absolute streak. All right, guys, so we know that AEW is doing some very big things. They just had over 20,000 people at Arthur Ashe, and now there is talks that AEW could very well be planning a massive stadium event. Now, within this rumor in general, there is a thought behind AEW teaming up with New Japan, Impact, NWA, and all of these organizations to put together a super massive stadium event. Now, if that were to come to fruition, there are a couple possibilities for AEW. They could go in the United States and pretty much sell out any stadium. I genuinely believe they can, depending on the market. But for cost purposes, I think AEW planning an event in Jacksonville at the TIAA Bank Field would make the most sense. It's obviously the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars, but also it holds 67,164 people. Now, we know that this upcoming Monday, AEW is scheduled to make a major announcement. According to Voices of Wrestling on Twitter, they said that there is a rumored announcement coming for Full Gear. Now, with that being said, when it comes to Full Gear, we know it's going to be happening. We're under the impression that it's happening in Minneapolis, Minnesota. No, I don't think they're doing the stadium show. I don't think that's what they're announcing Monday, but we know with them making a large announcement Monday, it is going to be a venue that AEW has never been in before, and it's one that a lot of people are familiar with, which if that is the case, we know that this is going to be a larger sized venue. Now, as you can tell, there's a certain trend with AEW. They were doing events at venues that had about 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000 seats, and now they're doing shows over 10,000 to 15,000 in attendance. So it sounds like AEW is fully prepared to eventually announce as well a stadium show, and I think that would be the right move for AEW. Some people are saying it's too early, but it's very clear that AEW is catching momentum, and you have the ability to create a destination for AEW on a pay-per-view scale by collaborating with the other wrestling companies. I don't know if AEW could do it by themselves, but if you're advertising Tanahashi and Okada, and you're advertising the crew at Impact and ROH and NWA, and you're bringing all of these people together for a stadium event in Jacksonville, I think AEW could pull it off. And I think this could be very much like a WrestleMania-esque weekend. And I think that's what we're getting closer to. So Monday, we're expecting the venue announcement for Full Gear, which is expected to be a large announcement. But as time goes on, the plans, they're on the wall, man. It looks like AEW is getting ready to do bigger and better things every single day, and that's very exciting. Anyways, guys, my name is Zango. This is Destination Pro Wrestling. Feel free to join the Discord server. It's completely free. And don't forget, click that subscribe button and ring the bell. All the important links are in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time right here on DPW.